For my new subscribers, I do videos every single day. I usually do 3. And if you look at the bottom of your screen where it says the description box of the YouTube video, you will see I have a link there titled Today's Playlist. If you click that link, it will bring up all 3 of my videos and they will play one after the other to make life easier for you. Well, Monday morning, top of the morning to you. Can't wait to see what happens with Trump care / Ryan care / ditch Obamacare / okay, whatever the hell happens now that that's over. Whatever's next, such as debt ceiling issues. You know what I mean? So yeah, we got a few things to talk about. So a couple things. First of all, this guy Preet Bharara, the one that, Attorney General, the tough as nails Attorney General, state of New York, Trump's letting him go, and I will not resign. You're going to have to fire me. Okay, fine, you're fired. And do you remember, though, long ago, that guy came up, and he's as tough as nails. He goes after them. After who? Anybody put in front of him, okay? And how come the Wall Street bankers were not put in front of him? Which means he could also go after them and put them in front of himself, if you will. Why didn't he go after the Wall Street bankers? And I said that the other day. I said, they let this guy go. He wasn't going to step down. They had to fire him. Make a big posture. I said, again, that is absolutely cleaning the swamp, draining the swamp. Not cleaning it. You're not going to clean the swamp, drain the swamp. And I did have a few people, but wasn't this guy like a real good, guy to have in there? No. He only looked good on the surface when he would attack these high-profile cases that had nothing to do with the club. Then he looked great. But anything with the club, you heard nothing about this guy. He wasn't doing anything. So, according to Silver Doctors, Preet Bharara explains why he let Wall Street bank execs avoid jail. Now, this ought to be interesting. Recently dismissed U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Preet Bharara, is suddenly being celebrated as an aggressive warrior in the fight against Wall Street corruption. Really? You could have fooled me. Perhaps I was in a coma when a string of big bank executives were arrested and sent to prison. No, what actually happened is one of the most powerful attorneys in the nation came up with a mealy-mouthed, cowardly rationale for why he let those financial thieves off the hook. And this is Crane's, and they report, Bharara was nowhere to be found when it came to charging the top executives whose actions led to the collapse of Lehman Brothers, Merrill Lynch, and AIG, and who made all manner of misleading statements to cover up how sick their firms were. Goldman Sachs executives sold institutional investors a mortgage-backed security that sales staffers described as, quote, one shitty deal, end quote. Where was Bharara when it mattered the most? We don't have to wonder for too long because the prosecutor explained his actions, or lack thereof, at a Crane's forum 3 years ago. He said at the time that he didn't think he could win a case against Wall Street top dogs because they had hired advisors assuring them what they were doing was legal. Quote, what you do have to prove is criminal intent, he said. And it's very difficult if a bank president has in his hands a letter or opinion from a law firm or accountant saying, if you do X, Y, and Z when you sell these mortgage-backed securities, you're good. Now, it may make you angry, he told the audience, but if you have the opinion, it is a very difficult thing for a prosecutor when they say, I asked my lawyers to do the best they could to tell me what I'm supposed to do. Read those statements again. The leading white-collar prosecutor in the country said that advice from the right lawyer or accountant is tantamount to getting out of jail, having a get-out-of-jail-free card. Jesse Asinger, a Pulitzer Prize-winning business reporter, will soon have a book out explaining how federal prosecutors lost their nerve to bring Wall Street leaders to justice. It is titled The Chicken Shit Club. Now that sounds like a book worth reading. I agree completely. The Chicken Shit Club. No, it's called the Banksters Club. All the Banksters men. That's what it's really called. And he was one of their men. Are you telling me, could you imagine trying to prosecute somebody? Well, you know, he murdered his wife. We have video of him coming up behind her, strangling her with the piano wire for old time's sake, killing her, stomping on her while she lay dead. He murdered her in cold blood. Well, the reason I didn't bring that case, we let him off the hook, we didn't even charge him, is because he had proof that he had asked a lawyer if he had done it a certain way, if that would amount to first-degree murder or not. And the advice he was given was that, quite possibly not. So if he had that letter in his hand when we went to file charges against him for, murder, what was the word he used? It would have been, but if you have the opinion, it's a very difficult thing for a prosecutor when they say, I asked my lawyers to do the best they could to tell me what I'm supposed to do. If the lawyers did the best they could do, well, you're off the hook all of a sudden. That's bullcrap. That is bullcrap. Because if you get in trouble, then you file a lawsuit against the lawyers who told you that it was okay. You file a lawsuit against the accountant who told you it was okay to do these things. Last time I checked, I can't run a red light and say my lawyer advised me that because I'm in a super duper hurry today, I'm allowed to run this red light. The cop's going to say, oh, really? That's great. Here's your ticket. I'll see you in court if you want to fight it. Take care. Have a nice day. And it'd be my responsibility to call my lawyer. Dude, you told me I would get in no trouble if I did this. And I did it today and I got nailed. I got a $260 speeding ticket, man. Or running a red light ticket. What the hell? Oh, just advice. We're trying to advise you the best we could. Okay, well, you're fired. I'm finding another law firm. That's how that goes. You don't have the number one district attorney in New York, the big hard hitter, say, well, because they would have been able to show a letter of an opinion from a lawyer or an accountant that what they were doing was okay. It'd have been real hard for us to prosecute. The law is very simple. If you do this, it's a crime. If you don't do this, it's not a crime. There's nothing in the middle that says you can do this and it can only be a crime. But since you've got paperwork over here, subsection C, my favorite subsection, subsection C, if they have paperwork, good luck prosecuting. Paperwork of an opinion of somebody else. Again, if that was the case, people would get away with murder and use that every time. There would be way more financial crimes than there are now, way more stealing of everything from everybody than is happening right now. And we would all use the excuse. We had a friend who's a lawyer or an accountant who gave us an opinion that this was completely okay. Get off, stop busting my chops. This is normal. It's okay. So that was the guy. That was the guy. I told you. Oh, but he's a hard hitter, Jason Nip. I thought he was a good guy. No, absolutely not. And I said it a long time ago, and I'm reassuring you now by reading you this. He had a speech, apparently, where he told people this. Now it may make you angry, he told the audience, but if you have the opinion, it's a very difficult thing for a prosecutor when they say, I asked my lawyers to do the best they could do to tell me what I'm supposed to do. What? This is an Ivy League top cop, the top law enforcement guy of New York telling you that? Could you imagine? Wow. And on other news, an interesting rollback from Trump, the Trump administration, this is from Zero Hedge, rolls back Obama protections on student loans. What protections? What is this? Just days after reports emerge that student loan defaults are soaring, which is undoubtedly due to some combination of, among other things, poor job prospects for the millions of snowflakes who graduate each year with their $200,000 educations in anthropology and moral hazard created by liberal politicians constantly calling for student debts to be forgiven, aka forcefully jammed down the throats of taxpayers. The Trump administration has revoked rules put in place by Obama that barred student loan debt collectors from charging penalty fees on past due loans. Originating from the Department of Justice, the Dear Colleague letter, Dear Colleague letter, full letter included at the end of this post, he says, if you want to see it, says that Obama's unilateral rules implemented in 2015 could have benefited from public input, but what good is being king if you can't unilaterally force new laws on the masses? And per the Washington Post, the Education Department is ordering guarantee agencies that collect on defaulted debt to disregard a memo former President Barack Obama's administration issued on the old bank-based federal lending program known as the Federal Family Education Loan Program. That memo forbid the agencies from charging fees for up to 16% of the principal and accrued interest owed on the loans if the borrower entered the government's loan rehabilitation program within 60 days of the default. The Obama administration issued the memo after a Circuit Court of Appeals asked for guidance in a case against United Student Aid Funds, USA funds, challenging the assessment of collection costs. Brianna Bible took the company to court after being charged $4,547 in collection costs on a loan she defaulted on in 2012. Though she had signed a rehabilitation agreement with USA funds to set a reduced payment schedule to resolve her debt, the company assessed the fees. Education officials sided with Bible, prompting USA funds to sue the department in 2015. Earlier this year, the company agreed to pay $23 million to settle class action lawsuits born out of the Bible case, though it did not admit any wrongdoing, of course. Of course, it didn't take long for Elizabeth Warren to draft a letter to the Education Department urging them to not take away the freebies from America's entitled snowflakes. On Monday, Senator Elizabeth Warren and Representative Susan Bonamici, of course, both Democrats, one Oregon and Massachusetts, sent a letter urging the Education Department to uphold the Obama administration's guidance on the collection fees, which they say results in an unnecessary financial burden on vulnerable borrowers. Congress gave borrowers in default on their federal student loans the one-time opportunity to rehabilitate their loans out of default and re-enter repayment, the letter said. It is inconsistent with the goal of rehabilitation to return borrowers to repayment with such large fees added, she says. Of course, these new rules came just days after new data published by the U.S. Department of Education revealed that $137 billion of federal student loans were in default as of last December, a few months ago. A 14% year-over-year increase, by the way. 14% year-over-year. Key findings from the Consumer Federation of America. Average amount owed is $30,650 per federal student loan borrower. Average amount owed per borrower continues to tick up, rising 17% since the end of 2013, when borrowers owed on average $26,300. $137 billion in default. The federal loans originated by financial institutions and the U.S. Department of Education, a total of $137.4 billion in balances were in default. Again, a 14% increase from 2015. This cumulative level of defaulted balances includes loans which defaulted in previous years. Defaulting on a federal student loan comes with severe consequences. Borrowers can face seizure of their tax return, garnishment of wages, and an inability to pass employment verification checks. 1 million direct loan defaults in 2016. In 2016, 1.1 million federal direct loan borrowers defaulted. Federal law typically defines a federal student loan default as being 270 days past due. Borrowers defaulting for the first time slightly decreased compared to 2015, though borrowers re-defaulting slightly increased compared to 2015. Seems the cost of financing those spring break trips to Cancun just got a little costlier. Sorry, snowflakes. That's from Zero Hedge. So I have to agree with this a bit on one side. Again, snowflake attitude, going to college, take the money, spend it on booze, drinking, parties, going to Cancun. As he links the story to the Cancun thing. I remember talking about this a little while back, blowing their money and taking trips with it. And then it's time to face, the Piper, the Pied Piper. Give me my money. I don't have it. But you guys have enough time on your hands to go protest out of control Donald Trump. Even though he won, and then after he won, you want to protest even more. When you should have been out there trying to find a job to help pay back that student loan. And you know what I love the most? The people I'll see from time to time, the shills come in, every now and then one or two. So says the guy that defaulted on his mortgage. Yeah, listen to this guy. There's $1.3 trillion in student loan debt out there. That means it needs to be paid. Hasn't been paid yet. Not necessarily defaulted, but hasn't been paid. 100 and what was that? 10% of it roughly. What was the actual amount? 137 billion. Yeah, about 10%. About 10% is absolutely in default. And as I said, some are in re-default, if you will. We quit paying and we start paying again, and now we're back to not paying again. And how many jobs are there for these people? So that's the other side. There's not a whole lot of jobs. These kids were promised by the schools, indoctrinated in there. You're going to make it. Remember the ITT Tech commercials? Oh, my favorite. Got the Spanish speaking. He speaks English, but he's of Spanish origin, if you will. He's a Spaniard, so to speak. Yeah, I went to ITT Tech. I got my life. I bought a house. I got a family. My wife. Why would they have a Spanish guy on there as the fake actor pretending he made it? Because there's a whole lot of poor people who happen to be minorities, and those minorities happen to be Spanish and black. So you show the minorities, come to ITT Tech, and you can make it too. Look at this guy. He has a family he's providing for. He just bought his first house, as he said. Life is good. Wow, and I don't have to actually go to college. Math, science, all that crap. Man, I just want to go to ITT Tech. It's the same thing. Go get a loan, you're approved. Everybody's approved. Believe me, everybody is approved when it comes to student loans. Why? Because they're government-backed. Yeah, we did our due diligence. This guy looked good at the time, only to find out, no, he didn't. But you knew better anyways. Didn't matter because you knew the money was coming to you whether he defaulted or not, so you just let it go. So that's the other side. People are being lied to. These young kids lied to. And then they get out in the real world, and they have this huge debt they have to pay back, and they can't pay it back, so they don't pay it back. They try to pay it back, start to pay it back, now I can't pay it back. Re-defaulted, right? Double default, if you will. This is never going away unless, literally, thus the government just eats it and says, you know what? Since everything's going to hell in a handbasket one day, when the crash occurs, maybe, when they tell you there's a two-tiered currency system or something, whenever something happens, it'll have to be dealt with. But if history is our guide, it'll be so far too long and past the point of no return of fixing anything, it won't matter if and when it happens anyways. It'll just go down the wayside of, you owe us, this person's now 55 years old, he's 60, he's 65, we've been trying to collect this debt on this guy, this deadbeat for 40 years. Sir, we'll settle with you for $10. All right, here you go. Get out of my life. This is not what this country's supposed to be. We're not supposed to be I'm not supposed to be out here doing videos on student loans that have not been paid back. Terrible, dismal job outlook for these people with $1.3 trillion and climbing. If you notice, the student loan debt number just keeps climbing higher and higher and higher no matter what. So whether he takes this back or not. And this might be Trump's way of saying, all you effing snowflakes that caused trouble for me, and I tried to go rally in a couple places, and you basically made me shut it down. And then I won, and then you still did this crap. This is for you. I'm reversing the little thing Obama did that maybe helped you a little bit on your student loan. F off. This is what you get. However, that affects all people with student loan debts, not just snowflakes. So whatever his reasoning is, I really don't know. But interesting nonetheless. Again, he's not making any more friends in Congress. So when it comes time for this debt ceiling to be talked about, this could be some fireworks. I just got a feeling. Boy, I think there's going to be some fireworks. Take care.